Hey everyone! So the last couple of days in America has kind of been a mess. A couple of days, basically a week now. For reasons that you all know, our country has a history of police brutality against mostly black men, and the country as a whole is not happy about it. In general, we're angry and we're tired of fighting the same fight. It's 2020, and the level of injustice in this country is kind of absurd. But as I'm an English teacher and I teach students from around the world, I've actually gotten to talk to people that have really interesting perspectives, and also my friends all live abroad as well. So I kind of just want to run through a couple of stories that I've heard, and kind of some perspectives that they have. Certainly, there's not much that I can add to the conversation at this point. So many brilliant people have talked about the Black Lives Matter movement in ways that I just can't. But this is what I can offer to the discussion, I think. So first off, when my brother was working in Australia, he told them that he drove cross-country by himself from like California to Ohio. And some of them were really surprised because they thought it was dangerous. And he was like, why? He's like, because people have guns in America. You could get shot. While that's true, this just perception of violence that we have just running rampant is very sad. And it does run rampant. It is different if I were driving cross country as a woman. It is different if I were driving cross country as black or a minority, but specifically it would be very different if I was driving cross country as a black man. The intersection of race and violence in America is profound. So as shocking as that concern is, I kind of get it. You know, makes sense. The second story comes from actually one of my students from Russia, and she's very up to date on everything happening in America. And we were just kind of talking about the situation. She knows all of the names of the people that died, how they died, and kind of why the country is upset. And I had asked her if she was able to protest in Russia, because I know Russia has some stuff going on with some things. And I learned something. Apparently they have like a 2-week jail that they can detain people in without being convicted. Yeah, I don't know. So like all these protesters out on the street could be removed for 2 weeks from society. So for somebody like her that really cares about these things, and you know, Russia's not the spitting image of social justice either, but they don't have potentially as much freedoms as we do to protest, which is kind of crazy. I was also talking to a student from Hong Kong, and if you know, they've gone through months and months of pretty severe protests against the Chinese government trying to take control over them. Specifically back in like November, when I was actually living in Shenzhen on the border between Hong Kong, there was a percentage of the population, it was like 50% or 40%, something absurd, was on the streets in Hong Kong. And I think what we were talking about was their protests were largely peaceful. At least that's the way that they were described on the news. And I don't think that they were getting tear gassed and stuff like that just for having large groups of people. But the news that's making its way to Hong Kong is about the police cars being set on fire, the shops being looted, and kind of all of that. Those horrible actions that don't represent the larger protest, the larger cause. So when I was at the courthouse yesterday with probably like 300-400 other people, I had told them that I was there, and they were like, oh, are there police around? And I was like, yeah, they are, but they're not, I mean, we're not throwing stuff at them. We're not. Some people were yelling at them out of distrust and anger, you know, screaming their stories and stuff like that. Okay, so on a more positive note, on the larger picture, because negative news spreads better than positive news, a lot of the people in Asia that I know have a bit of a scary image of what America is like, right? Lots of violence, lots of racism, vandalism, not just from these riots, but from other things as well. But I think a positive note that has come out of this is that they've seen millions and millions of Americans stand up for people that have been minoritized for hundreds of years. You know, since the beginning of America, entire groups of people that don't look like me have lived through an absolutely unnecessary amount of hardship if hardship is even a word that can fully encompass that idea. And it only makes things worse when people like Donald Trump get elected president, because it just reinforces the idea that, yeah, wow, Americans are shitty. But now we see these protests, and now we see, like with the Women's March, and we see these things happening. And it's giving people in other countries courage to also join in and fight for equality on their own front. And I've seen that in my friends' posts that don't live in America, but they're fighting for the same things. I mean, every country experiences racism in different ways, and to see America, one of the most influential countries in the history of the world, take on that fight, it gives them a little bit of empowerment, which is amazing. And honestly, like, things have been much worse now too because of coronavirus, like just the blatant racist attacks on Asian people because the virus happened to come from China. It's just such an ignorant thing to do. Like, any excuse to hate somebody and you're gonna jump onto it, you know? Nothing screams "in God we trust" like blatant bigotry. And anyway, I think that's most of it. I just kind of wanted to get the point across that there are messages being spread from America to other places, and sometimes they're wrong and they're scary, but those highlight intrinsic problems in our culture, like the gun violence. And then sometimes they're empowering, and sometimes they give voice to people in other places that wouldn't have had the opportunity to experience hope in that specific way. So for everybody that's been out and about protesting, I hope you're all being safe. Just a general PSA: we're not violent people, and the select few that are perpetrating violence do not represent the movement as a whole. Um, please, share your story below as well if you think that you've related to something that I said. I would love to hear it. Also, I did not film at all while I was in any of the rallies or any of the protests, specifically because I didn't want to use this time of turmoil to gain subscribers. It seems like I would be exploiting a serious social problem. I had my camera ready at a couple of times in case if there was a situation that, like, I don't know, would be useful for like the news to have, but that never happened. It never came close to happening, thank goodness. I kind of got that feeling. There was a vlogger that had this whole proposal video to his now wife, and at the very end he was like, "Thanks for watching, like and subscribe if you like this content." It's like, you really just sold out your proposal to the love of your life for YouTube subscribers. Like, did you do all that fun stuff because you love her, or because you wanted to gain viewership? You know what I mean? So I didn't want to be a part of that. Okay. Take it easy. See you next time.